Welcome back to retirecoast.com's presentation of Seniors Income Tax 2023 and our companion YouTube video of tax strategies. Let me first explain to you that retirecoast.com is a blog site, and we write about all kinds of things dealing with your financial life, your choices to make in where you want to live, how you want to live, and lots of suggestions, recommendations for trying to make life better for you, and in particular for those that are going to be in the retirement age at some point or already are. So one of the things that we're doing here is to explain to you how to do your tax return yourself. There's no reason for you to go to a tax preparer if you are retired with simple income, Social Security, some income coming in from your previous 401k or your rollover IRAs or your Roth, and many people are in that position. So I want to show you how to use that new IRS form, the 1040-SR, which was actually introduced last year. Now, a lot of people listen to our podcast and our YouTube video and visited our website at retirecoast.com to read the companion article to this YouTube video. Now, listening and watching the YouTube video is very good for visual presentation to understand, but you're going to need some things. You're going to need some links to the IRS, for example, to some other forms, possibly some other information that we're going to give you on the website itself. So we're trying to tie these two together to help you even better than we have done in the past. The form actually in 2023 changed a little bit versus 2022, not much. However, some other things have changed because Congress had indexed some of the benefits, such as deductions. The deductions are higher this year than they were last year, and we'll go through what those are. And there's some other minor changes. Some of them are important changes to the tax code. All of this stemming from the 2017 changes that Congress has made. I want to mention to you, because I don't talk about it a lot in the video, that you can file your tax return using the e-file, and you can actually file it for free if you go to the IRS website. People that earn under a certain amount of money, something around $78,000 a year, I don't know the total right now, you can have your taxes done for free if you feel you can't do them yourself. So those are some nice newish benefits that were added with the tax changes in 2017, and this form is so simple now that it can largely be done online. Also, if you happen to owe the IRS any money, and I hope you go through this and find out that you don't, but if you do, you can pay them online. They'll take it right out of your checking account by signing up when you go to e-file. And that's the way that they want it done now. They don't want any checks sent in the mail. They don't want any cash, of course. So please follow through with us as we go through the Senior 1040 form. And hopefully by the end you'll understand how to do it yourself. And the good thing about these videos is that you can just stop them, go back, rewind, and move forward. And if you want to see the actual forms themselves, they're going to be on the website, as I mentioned, at retirecoast.com. So please take some time. This one's going to run about 45 minutes or so. I hope that it's complete, and I would love to hear some comments. Last year, a number of you left comments, and that was great. Constructive comments are good. I can make mistakes like anyone. I do want to warn you, however, here that any decisions that you make regarding what you learn on this video, those are your choices. If I've made a mistake somewhere, then I apologize in advance for that, but I've given you some resources on the website and mentioned to you that you should always go back and look at the instructions that IRS will provide to you for filling out the forms almost line by line. So if you have any questions. Also, as we go through this, we'll talk about the myriad of forms that the IRS has if you need to use them for something. For example, if you have overseas income, there's a form for that. If you have child care, there's a form for that. There are forms for everything. In the most simple manner, however, the majority of Americans that can file this form, they're over 65, won't have any of those forms other than the one or two that we introduced for you in here. However, it doesn't mean that you may not be able to use a form, and some of those forms are to your benefit. They deal with income. So please take a look at this closely. If you have any questions about whether you should use a form or not, go to the IRS website and find out about that form. You can read about it to formally explain what its purpose is, and then if you need to file it, go ahead and do that. I would also suggest that you keep records of anything that is out of the ordinary, and many of these forms are slightly out of the ordinary. For example, with dependents that you may be caring for, be sure that you have documentation that says you are the guardian for that person and you can list them as a dependent. Documentation is very important to the IRS. You don't want to be audited. I'm not trying to scare you either. It's just important that if you put something down, it came from somewhere. There was a source somewhere. Just retain the sources. In today's world of electronics, you don't need to keep paper copies. You can scan everything, and that's perfectly acceptable to the IRS. So if you want to scan all of your receipts and keep them in a file somewhere, that's perfect. That'll work just fine. You don't need to have drawers and drawers and drawers of documents. And for those of you that have been saving up all of your tax return documents for decades, and I used to do that myself, you don't need to go back that far. Go back to a few years, 2, 3 years, and if you haven't put everything on electronic media, then you might want to get a scanner and scan all of these documents and put them there, and then destroy by shredding or some other method all of those documents. Kind of clean up your storage area, if you will. Well, thank you, and I wish you good luck as you go through and listen to our YouTube video. Please return to retirecoast.com, both our website and our YouTube video. Welcome back to retirecoast.com, where we're going to go over the 1040 SR U.S. tax return for seniors for the year 2023. If you had listened to our podcast for 2022, as many people had, hopefully that will have provided you with some good information. We know a little bit more this year. The form has slightly changed, so we're going to go through it with you. And we're going to add some things that we didn't add last year, some of the tables, a little more information to help clarify this process even a little bit more. It can be daunting for most people. However, having said that, it is about as simplified as it can possibly get. The actual form itself is pretty short compared to the old 1040 form, and you aren't required to fill out the itemized deduction form if the standard deduction, which is very high now, and we're going to go through that, will work for you. And for most people listening to this, I would suspect if you're a senior over 65 and you're qualified to fill out this form, then you won't have lots of interesting little side trips, as we'll see as we go through the form. Whereas if you are working and earning income and you are raising children, there are lots of other things that you may need to do, including fill out many other schedules to attach to your 1040 form. So this one's pretty simple, and we're going to make some assumptions now, and I'll go through those with you. So I just put in, just to test this, this is the online form I'm entering right now. I'm directly at the irs.gov website, and I'm going to put in the names of our people that we used last year. So Sally, and you can see my typing, Sally Jones, and I'm going to put Sally's Social Security number in, which I hope is wrong. And I'm going to put in Sally's spouse, which is Paul, and I'm going to put in Jones' last name, and this one will be a different one this year. Last year I used the same one, which by the way would have been a red flag for the IRS. So the home address would have been apartment number if you have an apartment number, any town, and I'm going to put Mississippi because that's where I'm at, and the zip code. We're going to not do anything with the foreign information here. If you are receiving income, have any financial things going on in another country other than the United States, then there are many other forms to fill out. And I'm not sure that the 1040 SR is for you. However, you can go to the instructions, and if you go to our website, retirecoast.com, and check out our article with the same title as this one about seniors completing their 2023 return, you'll find a link to the IRS instructions for this form and many others. Let's take a look at the presidential election campaign. Now you have a choice here, you and your spouse. You can elect to provide $3 from the federal general fund, not from your own money. Well, in a way it is, but maybe it's a fraction of a penny overall. That money goes to help fund the presidential election campaign. And the reason for this set up many, many years ago was to help reduce the influence on others trying to do something with the election. And of course, we've been through all that with the news and everything. Nevertheless, in theory anyway, if the presidential election campaign was fully financed by the federal taxpayer, you wouldn't necessarily have all these interest groups. I don't want to get into all that except to say it's your choice, but it's not going to come right out of your pocket if you decide to do it. So many people do. It might not be a bad idea. Again, it's your choice. And I'm going to click yes, or the check mark in here that you're going to do this. And then we're going to go just kind of roll this up a little bit, and we're going to go into the filing status here. Now, we're going to assume that you are married filing jointly for all of our calculations, because I had to do some of these in advance. And I'm going to put in some numbers as we go along here. And if you're not single or married filing jointly, and you're any of these other categories, filing separately, head of household, you need to read the instructions to make sure you qualify for all of those other ones. Each one of them has very specific qualifications. Then we're going to get into the digital assets at this point, and I want to explain, this came up last year also. Basically, the IRS is trying to track any of this coin, Bitcoin, some of the other digital coins that are out there, and they want to know if you have any. They want to know if there's any transactions. And if you don't tell them, they might find out anyway. So I'm going to put no on here. The vast majority of people are not involved in cryptocurrency. But if you are, then please go to the instructions, and you're going to have to really dig deep in there. There's some other forms to fill out. Now we come to the standard deduction. And you can check any of these boxes here. But I'm not going to check these boxes because we are looking for a married filing jointly. So I'm going to check here because both of you were born, or at least these two individuals were born after January 2nd, 1959, which qualifies them to fill out the senior form. Now I want to explain what this blind is. If you are legally blind, and I'm not going to get into what makes you legally blind or not, you should know that if you are. If you think you are legally blind, then you can read the instructions and find out what you need to do to be able to check the boxes. But you can check more than one box. As I see, there's 3 of them here. The more boxes you check, the better it is for you financially, and I'll show you what I mean down below. So I've already checked these 2 boxes right here. Now, as far as dependents are concerned, you can put in children, but most people listening to this are seniors, and they may not have any children that are dependents, unless maybe they're grandchildren, if you provide the majority of support for an individual. And you need to read the instructions here very carefully to be sure that you qualify as listing these individuals as dependents, because when you put that social security number in there, it should not be found out that someone that you are claiming as dependent is also earning income above whatever their limit is, and that'll clash. They'll certainly discover that. So be very careful if you go to see the instructions, if you're going to list any dependents here, if you're a senior, for example. Now, if you're 40 years old and you have several children, then you just put the children's names and information here, and that's normal kind of thing. But a lot of seniors are involved with issues where they are the caregiver, if you will, for grandchildren, nephews, nieces, other individuals. This is one of the reasons they want the relationship to you in here. So we're going to leave this blank for now, and then we're going to come into the income. Now, if you worked for someone, which most people have, that's why they have Social Security, you were used to getting that W-2 form at the end of the year, and you would have put that information right here, even on the typical 1040 form. However, most people that are retired are not drawing a W-2 paycheck. Now, I say most, but not all. There are some people that are working part-time for Walmart, for example, or some other location. If that's the case, then you can put the amount in here that is in box 1 from the W-2 form. That's pretty simple, but there are instructions in case you don't understand that. Now, you're going to have to be looking at these forms that are coming to you from the individuals or the businesses or the entities that have issued income to you. And they want you to attach W-2 here. However, I will tell you a little bit more later on about the e-file process where you can electronically file for free. And in that case, you're not going to attach these. But there's some other instructions later on. Just you need to put them together in your package to keep for your records, because these documents are going to be bringing data to this form, and it's a good backup in case you are audited at some point. So I'm not going to put anything in any of these boxes. They are not typically filled by people who are retired, just essentially drawing Social Security, possibly a pension, interest, dividends from investments, for example, and also income from maybe a small business. Maybe you're renting an apartment complex somewhere else. So those things aren't going to be in here. So let's go take a look at the Schedule B now, and then we'll come back to this form. So, well, welcome to Schedule B, Form 1040. This form is to be attached to the 1040 SR, and it's for 2023. Interest and ordinary dividends is the title of the form. And the reason we're using that form is because we were going down the 1040 SR form, and under income, we hit a block for 2A, which says attach Schedule B if required. And we have taxable exempt interest here, and we have taxable interest, and we have dividends as well. So what we want to do is get all those things recorded here. And because they exceed the $1,500, you can see right here, then we need to complete all of the parts here. So basically, I'm going to show you that we have $3,000 from Anytown Savings and Loan, and we also have U.S. savings bonds, tax exempt, $3,000. So that's $6,000 that we show here. And then you will see that there's $6,000 here. And then basically it says then you deduct $3,000, which is this number here, because they are excluded from tax, and then you end up with $3,000. And this is to go on line 2B. Okay? So that's how we ended up with these numbers, and we'll go back to the 1040 SR form in just a moment. Let's take a look at the part 2, which are the ordinary dividends. You will get that on the 1099 dividend document sent to you by the institution that is showing that you have earned some income. Same thing up here with this 1099 INT for interest or OID. Both of these forms, or all of these forms, will be sent to you by these institutions. And then you'll take the information from the forms and you'll enter it here. So here we have a total of $8,000, which matches what is on line 3B on the 1040 SR form. So let's finish up. We're required to go down here to do part 3, as it says here. They want to know again about these foreign accounts. We talked about that once before, so you put no, 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 if that is the case. And that is all we need to do to complete this Schedule B form. So let's pop back over to the 1040 SR and see what else we need to do to complete that form. Well, let's go through and complete page 1 of 1040 SR before we jump to another side page. We're going to bypass 1A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J, and we're going to start over here at tax exempt interest. And we're going to put in $3,000 in tax exempt interest. Now, this tax exempt interest is going to be on Schedule B, which we will show you how to complete Schedule B. It's pretty simple. And then we're going to go to the taxable interest, and we're going to say that that was $3,000. And that would be then qualified dividends, which we have as $8,000. And what qualified dividends are, essentially, are dividends you've earned that you have held for more than 61 days after you have earned those. Those are called qualified. Otherwise, it would be non-qualified dividends, and the tax rate is different on those. And then we're going to have some ordinary dividends of $8,000. These are taxable dividends. And we're going to, and by the way, all of these come from the forms that you're going to be provided by the companies you work with, whether it's stock brokerages or whatever. There's nothing you need to make up or do any research on. You're going to get these all as 1099, some type of a 1099 form. So don't worry about where the information comes from. You will get those forms. Be sure that you get those if you have accounts out there that have generated any kind of an income stream, and you've entered that information in here appropriately. So we put down $8,000 here, and then we're going to go over to the IRA distributions. This is important. We're going to come back to this a little bit later. We have $9,500 in IRA distribution that you have received. Now remember, when you put that money in, you didn't pay any taxes on it. So when you take it out, you're responsible for paying taxes. If you are 72, actually after April 1st of the year following the year you turn 72, so basically you're going to be kind of creeping up on 73, you're going to have to make a mandatory withdrawal from your account. And the company that's holding your funds can tell you what that is. Now we're going to put in for IRA distributions, we're going to put $9,500. And I have a reason for putting this number in. I'll get to it later. But we'll say that you took out $9,500. Remember, money that you put into the IRA account, you put in before paying any taxes on. So you're going to owe taxes when you take this money out of your IRA account. And $9,500 is going to be taxable. So we're going to put that $9,500 over here as well, because it is taxable. It's possible that some that you take out from some IRA account is not taxable. Everything's possible when it comes to filling out your tax return with the IRS. If you have any questions, you can always go to the instructions or check with a tax professional whether you have any IRA distributions that are not taxable. Most of you will not have. And I'm trying to do this for the majority of people that are doing these returns. That's why I've skipped on all these forms up here. I could go on for hours and hours if I had to explain every one of these all the way up here, when the vast majority of people, I mean a real huge number, are not going to need any of these things. They won't receive any income from these forms up here, these from W-2s, etc. So it's important down here on the IRA that you get that correct. That will again come from your 1099 form. You'll get one that'll say, hey, you took out $9,500. Now, for those of you that are getting up there above 72, in other words, by April 1st of the year following your age 72, you're going to be required to make some mandatory withdrawals from your IRA account. Strange as it sounds, the government wants their money, so they want the taxes on that. And there's a schedule that you can get from the IRS on. It depends on your age and the amount of money that you have in your account, and it will tell you how much you have to take out every year. So let's just assume that some of this here is what you're required to remove every year. So if that's the case, you have just checked a box and you don't have to worry about any fines. Believe it or not, IRS will fine you considerable amount of money if you do not take money out of your fund as you're supposed to. So this just checks that box again. We're going to leave the pensions and annuities alone here. Some of those are taxable at the federal level. And if that were the case, you put the amount in here and the taxable amount over here. So we're going to kind of avoid that for now. And now it's time to get into the Social Security benefits. So we have determined that your Social Security benefits are $38,000 because you received from the Social Security Department a 1099. You can also go into your Social Security account online and see what that amount is too. So that is your total benefit. Gross benefit, now this is the amount before they take out from Medicare, because they want you to pay tax on that too. Don't get me started. So here we go to the taxable amount, which is going to be not $38,000. Oh, that's good news. All right, we're going to come back to this because we have to do a little calculating to determine what the taxable amount is. We're going to take you to a form where you can determine what that is. There's a whole kind of complex form, but good news. As I'll mention on that segment, we have created a spreadsheet for you to use to complete that. So come back and visit us in just a moment after you've already gone through the Social Security account. We go over the Social Security benefits worksheet. This is for lines 6A and 6B. We're going to start with putting the $38,000 in here that your forms SSA 1099 indicated, and that's for the two of you, since this is a joint return. And you can write the $38,000 in here. And I'm going to stop you for a moment. And I'm going to explain that we have created a spreadsheet. It's real simple. And if you want to use that rather than this exercise, you're welcome to do that. You can find that on our website, retirecoast.com, under the Seniors Income Tax 2023 article that we've written there, and you can download that spreadsheet and you can put it on your computer and you can use it and you can enter all of the information that's required from this sheet. We've actually explained all of it, and I'm going to show it to you in a couple of minutes. But I do want to go through this sheet with you because it's relative to the one that we're using, the spreadsheet, and just discuss it a little bit with you. Now, essentially, there are lots of formulas in here that make no sense to most of us. Have no idea what most of these things mean. It's really not that important that you know what these things mean. This is the bottom line here. This number has to be transferred over to the 1040 SR form, and this is what you're trying to get to. So you start with the $38,000 that we have indicated already that you have received from Social Security, and then we follow these different formulas here. Again, you know, this is 19,000 is half of this. That's basically what it says here. Then you combine the amounts here and combine letters and all these things, and if yes and if no and all of this. So rather than go through this whole exercise with you, because we've created the spreadsheet to do just that, and because the IRS has not actually discussed what all of these things actually mean, it's a means to an end essentially for them. And this is the number that you need. So I'm not going to spend any more time with this except to tell you where it's located. It's on page 32, and that really is for the early draft of the 2023. They may change that and move it to line 33 or line 31. And we have written most of this narrative into our other form, but if you want to read more of it here, for example, we're using the $32,000 for filing jointly here, but there are also some numbers they have listed here for if you lived apart from your spouse, for example, and then there's some other things you can do if you are different than the average person that we're trying to portray in this tax return model. So let's go on to the spreadsheet and I'll show you how that works. Well, we're going to talk now about the Social Security Benefits Worksheet 2023, our version, our electronic version, which is in a Google Doc. And by the way, you can download this as a Google Doc or as an Excel spreadsheet. If you go to the retirecoast.com website, check out our article on the seniors income tax for 2023, and you'll find a link to that. Once you have it on your computer, then you can continue to fill this out. There's no reason to do the hand form. This is a little bit easier, and it's going to be used by you in the next iteration, our next YouTube video, where we talk a little bit about tax strategies. So let's dive in here. We want you to put down the $9,500, which comes from block 4A up here. Now that may sound about as cryptic as the IRS's typical forms, but I will explain what this is for in a moment. It's actually to be used in some formulas here. It's just a better place to put it at that point right there. And also here, you need to put in the $38,000, which came right here. Now this, we're showing you this on the side, just an example of what was on the 1040 SR form, so we don't have to flip the screen back and forth for you to see this. And basically, the block 6A is $38,000. That's the amount of Social Security benefits that were reported by the IRS or Social Security organization to you. And then we're going to follow through. The math is going to do all the work for you except for the yellow blocks. And this is the information that you have to enter both in the 1040 SR form and here as well. And they'll be the same numbers when you enter those. So let's go down and we'll try to make some sense of this. All the green boxes, if there's a number in there, those numbers are being calculated for you. It's got some interesting math in here to do all this work. And we are using the answers of yes here and yes here, which the majority of you will have. If you have some other situation, you can read it on the hand filled in form that we went through already, and you can see what we mean by that. And if you have to answer no, then you may not be able to use this form, or you may have to do some manipulation of it to use the form. But we're trying to do this for the larger group of you who will just be putting yes in both blocks. Well, we end up with $3,975 here, and this is the important thing. This is what we're trying to reach right here, is this number. So we put that number over here. Now, that gives us the ability to continue on to fill in the 1040 SR form. And that's all we really have here for you, because it's pretty darn simple. If you put in just the yellow numbers here, and this is what you need, and you put this over here, and then you can follow on as we explain to finish up the form. Well, let's continue to fill out the 1040 SR form now that we've visited the Social Security worksheet. And we're going to put down a 0 for taxable amount under pensions and annuities. Now, before we just leave this, some of you will actually have pensions and annuities that may be taxable. Some are not taxable, some are taxable. You'll need to determine that based on the information you're receiving from the business that passes out the funds to you. They'll send you a 1099 if it's a taxable amount. And if it was, then you'd have to put some numbers in here and possibly over here as well. So we're going to put a 0 in here. And then we're going to go to that Social Security taxable amount that we worked out with the spreadsheet, or you did it by hand. And we came up with $3,975. $3,975, that goes into block 6B, and that is considered the taxable amount. Now, that still doesn't really mean anything because we're not finished yet. So let's go down below. Now, just remember all these numbers here, okay, because they're going to ask us to add these columns up. So we're going to go now to page 2, and we don't have anything for capital gain, and there's no additional income from Schedule 1, line 10, or Schedule 1, line 26. Now, it's important that you take a good look at Schedule 1, because there may be some items on there. It is such a long list of potential income sources that there may be something you earned income on, possibly babysitting or something. And if that's the case, then you need to enter those numbers in here at this point. If you don't have anything on Schedule 1, that's fine, you can move on. We've included a Schedule 1 information, which I'm going to jump off right now and explain to you. And then we're going to come back and we're going to actually get to the point where we can finish this form. Now we come to Schedule 1, which most of you will not use, but I feel compelled to show it to you anyway, because there may be just one line in here that you need to be concerned about. And believe it or not, it is the gambling line. Now, some of you may win a jackpot at a casino somewhere, and you're on Social Security. That is your primary income plus dividends, those things that we showed you already on the SR 1040 form. But if you win gambling, for example, $10,000 or $5,000, some amount that's large enough for the casino to report it to the federal government, even though you may not end up ultimately paying taxes on this, the fact that it was reported means you need to report it as well. Of, let's say, $5,000, we would take and put that in here. And then what we want to do is take the total right here at this level and then move this over to your SR 1040 form. But we're not going to use that here as an example. I just wanted to show you that. There are some other things on here too that you may want to look at. For example, if you had some non-taxable Medicaid waivers or pension or annuity from a non-qualified deferred compensation plan. If you don't know what any of these things are, you can read about them in the instructions, or you can see a tax professional. But the vast majority of you listening will not have anything here. Other income, list type amount, normally that would show up in other income. Now, if you have a small business going on, a side gig, for example, you need to fill out the small business income, which is Schedule C, and you'll put that in here, and then it will show up on your SR 1040 form also. But this is where it gets listed. And you've got real estate here, for example. You may have some income from real estate, so there may be some other income, but most people won't have this type of other income. Just showing you that Schedule 1 may be a form that you might be required to use, because it says right here, 1040 SR, to report that information. Well, let's continue to fill out the 1040 SR form now that we've visited the Social Security worksheet. And we're going to put down a 0 for taxable amount under pensions and annuities. Now, before we just leave this, some of you will actually have pensions and annuities that may be taxable. Some are not taxable, some are taxable. You'll need to determine that based on the information you're receiving from the business that passes out the funds to you. They'll send you a 1099 if it's a taxable amount. And if it was, then you'd have to put some numbers in here and possibly over here as well. So we're going to put a 0 in here. And then we're going to go to that Social Security taxable amount that we worked out with the spreadsheet, or you did it by hand, and we came up with $3,975. Excuse me. $3,975. That goes into block 6B, and that is considered the taxable amount. Now, that still doesn't really mean anything because we're not finished yet. So let's go down below. Now just remember all these numbers here, okay, because they're going to ask us to add these columns up. So we're going to go now to page 2. And we don't have anything for capital gain, and there's no additional income from Schedule 1, line 10, or Schedule 1, line 26. Now, it's important that you take a good look at Schedule 1 because there may be some items on there. It is such a long list of potential income sources that there may be something you earned income on, possibly babysitting or something. And if that's the case, then you need to enter those numbers in here at this point. If you don't have anything on Schedule 1, that's fine, you can move on. We've included Schedule 1 information, which I'm going to jump off right now and explain to you. And then we're going to come back and we're going to actually get to the point where we can finish this form. Well, this completes our discussion of how to file the seniors income tax for 2023. I'm going to suggest that you listen to essentially part 2, which is Seniors Income Tax 2023, tax strategies. I want to explain to you how, based on this demonstration of how to fill out this tax return, you can actually earn more income and not pay any taxes, or earn more income and pay a very minimal amount of taxes. And what I mean by earning that more income is, well, obviously you could take on a second job if you wanted to, but more specifically, it's about how to remove funds from your taxable IRA and move those funds into a non-taxable vehicle of some type, whether it's a Roth IRA or it's real estate or it's some other type of investment, but essentially to get as much out of that taxable account as you can without paying taxes, or if you choose to pay some taxes, you pay the minimal. So please go to our Seniors Income Tax 2023 tax strategies to hear the what you really need to hear, essentially the balance of this total package. Thank you for coming to retirecoast.com, and I hope that this has been beneficial for you. Please visit our website at retirecoast.com. Read this and many other articles about retirement, about investing there. I think you'll find that there are articles there that will be interested of not only you, but others that you know as well. So thank you again for coming to our YouTube channel, and we hope that you come back again.